as many as we can while keeping ourselves on time. So let's get started. I'm Jordan Sibley. I am not only a full-time realtor, but I am a mom to my 6-year-old daughter, Hannah, and my husband is also a realtor, and both of our dads were realtors. We are just a family of real estate. Let's see. Prior to real estate, I was a corporate wellness consultant for several years, and
we're not able to hear you. I'm not hearing you.
Here we go.
Let's see. I'll pause while we get some.
Okay, now I hear you.
You can hear me now. Anybody else having issues? Let's see. I'll try to keep my eye on this chat. Everybody's saying sound is muffled. We tested this earlier.
We got the part where you're a mom and a real estate agent.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine, Jordan.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to keep going, guys, because if she can hear me, all right, yeah, I'll have to keep going. I'm sorry if you can't hear me. Maybe it might be an internet connection issue, but I'll keep going and stand real close to the computer. So anyway, got into real estate about 5 years ago. Never something I dreamed that I would be doing. And since I've been in real estate, this is my first year with the YPN leadership, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to share this content with you guys, because when I joined my husband's team, I decided I wanted to work solely with buyers. Why? Well, it just kind of fits my personality style. It was something I was always interested in. And it's just been a natural fit for me. I've really never had a desire to work with listings, though that's definitely my husband's book of business. So I've been able to see both sides through working alongside him. I'm really excited to teach this class because I'm very passionate about streamlining the buyer side of the business. When I got into the business, you know, and this may be just me, I have a feeling some of you may feel the same way, but I felt like people didn't take buyer agents or buyer business as seriously as they did listing business. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy. You need a buyer and a seller to make the deal happen, right? So why is the buyer side not as systematic, I should say, as the seller side? So as soon as I started this business, that was my goal, is I'm going to make this a process, and I'm going to be successful at it and streamline it so that I can do just as much business as those successful listing agents out there. So I want to get started today by talking about some buyer myth understandings. Let's see. My controls here. All right. I am sure some of these myth understandings have left some of your mouths, or they've definitely been floating around up here. So let's go through them. The first one, buyers take too much time. I don't like working with buyers because they take too much time. So my question that I want you to ponder is it the buyer's fault that it takes too much time? Or perhaps is there a lapse in your system and processes that is causing that transaction to drag out? I can tell you what I'm going to teach you today about the buyer consultation and the expectations conversation. We're going to hopefully make your buyer business much more quick and streamlined. This second myth understanding, you will never meet me at the office first. Are you kidding me? A buyer consultation? One of my favorite quotes is, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So if you have a limiting belief that buyers will never meet with you in the office for a buyer consultation, well, you're probably right. But see, that thought never entered my head. From the day I got licensed, I said, I'm never going to run out to a property to meet a buyer that I've never talked to before. The third myth understanding, I can't ask somebody to sign an exclusive agency agreement with me. Let me ask you, is it that you can't or you won't? I assure you, you can ask them to sign it, but perhaps maybe you don't feel like you have a strong enough value proposition to agree to it. I'm here to work with you on that today. Next, A successful business can't be built on buyers alone. That's not true at all. I've been working with buyers solely for almost 5 years now. So while you will have listing business come your way, if you choose to focus solely on buyers, you can always refer out your listing business if you so choose. The last myth understanding is buyers are liars. Oh my gosh, if I had like a nickel for every time I heard that, I would be very rich right now. Buyers aren't liars. We usually just don't ask enough questions, or we didn't ask enough questions to see how motivated they were in the first place. That's usually the case versus buyers are liars. Now, guys, let me make something very clear. We all know there are those super special cats and kittens out there that just are going to drive you crazy no matter what kind of a job you do. That's the 20%, okay? Today, what we're talking about is the 80% of clients that you can use successful models and systems on. You can set great expectations with them and streamline your buyer process, okay? So if you have questions or concerns, don't make it about the 20% that, you know what, nobody could have pleased those buyers anyway. Ask those questions and comments about the 80% of your business and the struggles that you're having. So let's move on. I want to ask you guys something. Which of these triangles looks more steady? The one with the big fat bottom or the one with the skinny bottom? And of course, you'll say the one on the left. It's because the one on the left is built off of models with a little bit of creativity sprinkled on top, versus the other one just has a whole bunch of creativity and maybe a little bit of models sprinkled on top. Guys, no matter what industry you are in, whether you sell widgets from a widget factory, you sell medical supplies, pharmaceuticals, or you sell homes, there are people who have come before you that are successful at what they do, and they've taught us models and systems that we should follow. There's really no need to reinvent the wheel in real estate. So real estate sales is pretty simple. You got to connect with potential clients, convert them into income producing clients, and cement the relationship with them for continued business, continued referrals. If you've never had a model to base your buyer business off of, then I am so glad you are here with me today. I trust that you're going to take a lot away from what we're about to talk about. So what I want to explain here is the buyer service cycle model. Step one, this is where your leads become appointments. This is where you're connecting with people. Step two, a buyer consultation. To some of you, this concept is very foreign, and I'm super glad you're here, if anything, to take away information from step two. Step three, find a home. Step four, offers and negotiations. Step five, contract to close. Step six, where you really cement the relationship with your buyers, is your post-close systems. Funny enough, it's after the deal is done, that's when you really cement that relationship. So in this 6-step buyer service cycle model, most realtors, they skip step two. They don't ever do a buyer consult. And they fail to implement step 6, the post-close systems. They're missing out on the two most valuable parts of being in this type of business. You've got to make a great impression, get your client to the closing table, and keep in touch with them. So let's get started with step number 1. Leads become appointments. So I hope you guys have clicked around on the National Association of Realtors annual studies. So of course, the information I'm putting out is from 2019, but I can tell you I've studied over the years, it doesn't change very much. So they said that 75% of buyers interview only one agent to help them find a home. I'm going to say that again. 75% of buyers interview one agent to help them find a home. Holy moly. Talk about being set up for success, guys. That's an awesome statistic. And here's an even better one. 89% of buyers used a realtor to help them purchase a home. So 89% of home buyers want to use a realtor, and 75% of them are going to choose the first one they meet. That is so awesome. I hope that gets you very excited about working with buyers. And just a reminder, everybody, please keep your microphone muted. That would be so. First, where do we find buyers? The same place that you find sellers. If I were you and I was either starting my business or I was 20 years into the business, the first place you're going to find clients is your sphere of influence. These are the people who know you, the people who like you, and the people who trust you, and maybe even people who have done business with you. So this is your family, friends, co-workers, referral partners, past clients, other agents. Yes, other agents. There's plenty of listing agents out there who have no desire to work with buyers. Form a great relationship, and there you go. Awesome referral business. Okay. So next, when you find your buyers, you got to make a good first impression. Now, there's ways we make our first impression. You've got a listing sign in the yard, and they call off of that listing sign. Well, you've got about 30 seconds on the telephone to make a good impression and make that buyer see why they should work with you. If you're at an open house, if it's a busy open house, you might have a little bit more time. You have about 1 minute to make a good first impression. Ooh, that seems kind of high pressure, right? But when you're talking to a buyer, whether it's over the phone or it's in person, make the conversation about them, okay? People like talking about themselves. Ask open-ended questions to your buyers to allow them to talk about themselves. Here's what I mean. My favorite open house script is like 2 lines long. They walk into the door. Pre-COVID, I would have shook their hand and said, "Welcome, I'm Jordan Sibley. What brought you into our open house today? Do you live in the neighborhood or are you looking for a home to purchase?" That's an open-ended question. In 15 seconds, it tells me why that person walked in the door. If they're looking for a home to buy, bingo, need to get my game face on. If they're just a nosy neighbor, hey, no worries. You still want to make a great impression with them because you never know if they could turn into a future buyer or seller. But ask open-ended questions, such as, what attracted you to come visit this home today? What are you looking for in your next home? I see that you've got 2 little ones with you. Is this your whole family, or do you have any other pets making the move with you or other family members? Any open-ended question you can think of is going to keep them engaging in dialogue with you. It's going to keep them interested because they get to talk about themselves. Next, when you're trying to figure out if this lead is going to come full circle into an appointment with you, you need to find out if they're raw. I'm sure you've heard that acronym before. RAW stands for ready. Do they have a time frame they actually need to make a move? Are they able financially? And are they willing? Do they have an exact motivation for buying? The problem a lot of buyer agents make is they work with someone who's maybe R and W or R and A. R-A-W. That should set off flashing caution lights to you. I'm getting a bunch of background noise. Thank you. Okay, so ready, able, and willing. If you need to, write this down on a sheet of paper for when you're pre-qualifying a buyer. I don't mean financially, I mean pre-qualifying if they're an actual lead. You need to make sure they're all 3, or that is the type of client that is going to take weeks and months or maybe even years for you to help them find a home. Next, after you've spoken with that person on the phone or in person, have you earned the right to close and capture their business? Very important. Earned the right to represent my clients. And if I didn't, hook them as a client, well, I usually look inwardly and say, what could I have done different to earn their business? And last but not least, once you have a great conversation with somebody and you've earned the right to close and capture them as a client, set the appointment. The appointment for what? To show them a house? No, for the in-person buyer consultation. That's what you're setting the appointment for. Now I'm gonna stop right here. Some people are gonna go, buyers aren't gonna come to my office. Well, I already covered that myth understanding. That's just not true. Why would I want a buyer to come to my office for a formal consultation? Okay, well, we don't put listing signs in people's yards without having a thorough consultation for them at their house, correct? Why should a buyer be any different? You need to have a listing consultation with your buyers. Why should you do it at an office? Well, I don't know. If you're going in to have your tonsils removed, does the doctor say, oh, just meet me at the coffee shop around the street. We'll talk about your upcoming surgery. Ah, that's kind of scary. No, you meet them at the doctor's office. Why? Well, one, there's a staff that can take care of you and the doctor there. And by staff, I mean the people that work at your brokerage. Two, the doctor's office or your office is a professional setting. Now, look, I'm a Starbucks junkie, but Starbucks is very distracting, and nowadays you can't go sit there anyway. So you got to bring them into the office. Now, how do you set the appointment? Sometimes it's through a series of progressive closings, and closings are just statements that bring your client into action, okay? Now, I shouldn't call them a client yet. They're more still of a lead. So here is one way that you can close for an appointment. Mr. and Mrs. Sibley, I have really enjoyed our conversation today. And look, I understand that this open house here, this house just probably isn't the one for you. But you know what? The way that I can help you best is for us to meet at my office for about 30 minutes so I can take you through the purchase process start to finish. It will be very informal, and I promise it'll be worth your time. How does that sound? Okay, very few people are going to say, I don't know, I don't like that, it doesn't sound good at all. Most people are going to say, okay. They might say, well, you know, we're still a good 6 months out from buying. Okay, not everybody you talk to is going to be a hot lead, okay? What do you do then? Same script. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. And since you mentioned that you have another 6 months left in your lease, how about I follow up with you in 3 months? Would that be okay? I never leave a conversation with somebody in person or on the phone without asking their permission for when I can follow up next. Fortune is in the follow-up, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that next. All right, step 2. Step 2 is the buyer consultation. In a nutshell, this is where you teach your clients how to treat you. I'm going to say that again. You teach people how to treat you. If you skip the buyer consultation, or if you just don't have an expectations conversation with your client, that's the type of people that are texting you at 10 o'clock at night, 15 emails back to back on a Saturday, you know, the kind of people that just make us super stressed out and hate our jobs. Yeah. Again, there's always going to be those 20% of crazies out there. Okay, we take those as they come. But 80% of your clients will treat you how you teach them to. So when they come into your office for the buyer consultation, get them talking so they feel comfortable. And I'm going to teach you a technique called the FORM technique, F-O-R-M. Remember, this is called a buyer consultation, not a buyer presentation. Today, I'm doing a presentation to you. I'm talking at you. There's just too many of you on the camera for me to be able to converse with all of you. A consultation is an interactive conversation. If anything, your buyer should be talking just as much as you are if you're doing it properly. In the buyer consultation, you need to be knowledgeable enough about the real estate process to earn the right to be their trusted advisor. If there is one thing I take seriously in my life, it is my job as a realtor. We are helping people handle the largest financial asset that they will ever have, for most people at least. You've got to earn that right to be their trusted advisor, and if and when you earn it, hold it close to your heart and take it very seriously. Make sure in the buyer consult you're sharing information about the market, like days on market, appreciation percentages, interest rates, all that good stuff. Review the home buying process for sure. Nothing scares a buyer more than the unknown. Guys, we do this every day. Okay, they may only do this 1, 2, 3, 4 times in their life. You need to explain what's about to happen, okay? And then you got to set expectations for your working relationship. When you're working with a client, isn't it kind of like dating somebody? There's like that awkward getting to know them phase. Then there is, you know, taking them out on a date. You know, when you're dating your buyer, that's when you're out showing them properties, okay? And when you agree to be boyfriend and girlfriend, that's when they sign that buyer agency agreement or they go under contract with you. Before I move on, I want you to look at this quote at the bottom. People will not always remember what you said or did, but they will remember how you made them feel. I can't tell you how many times over the years I have done this buyer consult and people go to leave and they're like, thank you for taking the time to do that. I called and spoke to 10 other realtors and not one person educated me on the process. I feel really comfortable working with you now. That's how you earn somebody's business, is you get them to trust you by sharing valuable information with them. All right, so here's one of those places where I'm gonna pause for what are called ahas. Maybe it was a nugget of information that you got from me, or any questions. Go ahead and type those into the question box, and Julie, questions to me, okay? Please don't unmute, you're gonna type them into the question box. And I'll pause for a minute while some questions come in. And some ahas are always great, like, I didn't think about that, or you helped me change my mindset on this or that. I'll hang out another 30 seconds and then we'll get going. We are gonna spend a tremendous amount of time on step 2. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, we've been on step 2 for a while, it's supposed to be, don't worry, we're gonna get it all done in less than 2 hours. All right, Julie, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. So I'm going to start with this question. You gave us the FORM acronym. What is it? Question.
Beautiful question. And I'm going to explain that further in just a second, but I'll tell you now if you want to write it down. F stands for family. O stands for occupation. R stands for recreation. And M stands for motivation. And I'll review that again in just a second. So family, occupation, recreation, motivation. I feel like that should be like one of those songs on Schoolhouse Rock. Anybody remember Schoolhouse Rock?
So the next is an aha. This is from Brooke. She says, I love the questions you ask at the open house.
Ooh, good. I'm so glad you listened to those, Brooke. If you guys missed them, I'm going to repeat them again. When someone walks in the door, after you welcome them, you say, what brought you into our open house today? Do you live in the neighborhood, or are you searching for a home to buy?
We've got another one from Carolyn. She says, one thing I find sometimes difficult is to get buyers to get pre-qualified. Important step.
Carolyn, yes, my friend. We are going to talk about that in the buyer consultation. I am with you 100%, and I'm going to give you some objection handlers for when people do that to you. Let's do one more if we have one more, and then we'll move on. Remember, you can type questions in at any point. Julie can always catch up to them when we get to that aha section.
So we have one more question. It's kind of a long one. It's from David. He asked this in the beginning of the webinar. He writes, just today found that a buyer I was following up with bought a home with another agent. I didn't show any homes because of COVID, and I hadn't signed a buyer agreement or any appointment yet. I had been calling regularly and even pre-qualified him and his wife. She told me they had let the agents know they were working with me. I usually sign agreements right before I show a house. Did the agent cross a line?
It's definitely a question I want to point to your broker, because I want to do my best to not share opinions with you guys. That's definitely disappointing. I hate to hear that that happened to you. If they did sign an agency agreement with you and that was disclosed to the other agent, definitely sounds like somebody crossed a line. But again, take that to your broker, make sure that gets resolved because that's no fun when that happens. All right, guys. Let's move on. Again, feel free to type in questions as they come to you. Okay, so next, I'm going to share with you my actual buyer consultation. It is branded to me and my team because it's my intellectual property. Feel free to jot down and take notes, and I'll show you, easy ways to create your own. So I already mentioned that 95% of my buyer consultations are in the office. The other 5% are virtual. I meet with people over Zoom or Google Meets. Yes, even during COVID, people were coming to my office, when the office was open. We wore masks, still did the whole shebang. Now, I'm very comfortable presenting, so I use a PowerPoint. Please note, you do not need to use a PowerPoint, guys. You can use good old pen and paper. You can type up a little packet. Heck, go on Pinterest and type in buyer consultation. You'll find tons of ideas. Do not reinvent the wheel because you don't need to. You have more time to spend on other valuable things, okay? So this is my actual PowerPoint that I'm going to take you through. Here we go. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, thank you so much for coming into the office to meet with me. I know how very busy you are. Before we get started with this buyer consultation, I wanted to get to know you guys a little bit better. This is where I ask the form questions, guys. Pay attention. Mr. Jones, tell me a little bit more about your family. I see Mrs. Jones here. Is there anybody else that's going to be making the move with you? Yes, we have a son, a daughter in college, a pet fish, and a guinea pig. Super. Mrs. Jones, tell me a little bit more about what you do for a living. This is the O, occupation. I know Mr. Jones works for Capital One. What do you do? They tell you a little bit more about that. Thanks for sharing that with me, guys. I'm just curious, what do you guys like to do for fun on the weekends? We're big bike riders. We love to ride to City Park and do all kinds of fun things around the city. What do y'all do for fun? We love to go hiking, fishing, beach vacations, whatever. This is where you're building rapport with people. Don't stay on this subject forever, but relate with them when appropriate. And the last thing, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I want you to remind me again, what is your motivation for making a purchase? And they're going to tell you. Thank you for sharing that. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning we have to make a move or we're going to be homeless, please rate yourselves on how motivated you are to make a move. I'm going to say that again, guys. On a scale of 1 to 10, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, with 10 being, I have to make a move or I'm going to be homeless, what is your motivation for buying? That right there, guys, is going to tell you how to follow up with them. Right there. Okay, so they go ahead, they answer those questions. Last but not least, before I take you through the purchase process, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I want to know what is one thing that I can do today for this to be successful for you.
Yeah, what you need?
Hey guys, make sure you keep your microphone muted, please. I know a lot of us are like parenting and doing school from home, so I know it's hard to juggle. So what would make this meeting a success for you? Sometimes they'll go, well, what do you mean? Most of the time they're going to give you an answer. If they say, what do you mean? I respond with, I appreciate you taking 30 to 45 minutes out of your busy day to come meet with me. There must be something that you want to make sure you get out of this meeting today before we part ways. Find out what that is. You are gaining trust right off the bat before you have even moved through this buyer consultation. Some people will say, I really need help learning about the mortgage process, or I need to know how much money I'm going to need to purchase a home, in terms of a down payment and closing costs. They're going to give you all kinds of answers. But do your part, write it down, and make sure you actually answer it, okay? So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I would like to take you through a brief buyer consultation to teach you about the purchase process. Would that be okay? Yes, of course. Great. So I want to start by talking to you guys about market condition and inventory, because as a home buyer, these two statistics are very, very important. On the left-hand side, you will see the number of homes listed for sale in Orleans Parish over the past 10 years. On the right-hand side, you'll see Jefferson Parish. The reason I'm sharing this with you is it's important to know what kind of market we're in, so that when we're searching for homes, you'll trust that when I tell you we need to go in with a solid offer, that there's a reason why. You see, Orleans Parish has done a little bit of a roller coaster ride. We're starting to see the number of homes on the market creep up. That's what we tend to call a buyer's market, when there's a good bit of inventory for sale. Now, please don't get me wrong. Different areas and neighborhoods can have their own special types of markets, but this is New Orleans as a whole. Now, Jefferson Parish tells a completely different story. You can see that since 2015, the number of homes listed for sale has drastically declined. Most buyers going in to put an offer in on a new home in Jefferson Parish that's priced appropriately are going to be prepared for multiple offer situations. When there's fewer homes on the market to purchase, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, what do you think happens to price? Give them a second to think about it. Hopefully they'll say, well, I guess if there's not a lot of homes for sale, price goes up. Exactly. I'm so glad that you've been paying attention. That's a perfect answer. Moving on. Next, I want to talk to you about market condition. Now, guys, I'm going to pause real quick. Where did I get that graph, and where am I going to get these numbers that I'm about to talk about? From the beautiful statistics tab in Matrix. I'm a numbers nerd. I like to know my numbers, okay? You can find all this information on the stats tab. Once you know where they're looking to make a move, which you usually kind of know that before they come into the office, you want to look up the average list price to sale price ratio in that area, or perhaps you want to look at days on market as well. That's why I have a blank there. So I'm just going to throw something out there. The average list price to sales price ratio in Lakeview is currently 97.8%. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, there's a reason I'm sharing that with you. Let's pretend we're looking at a $300,000 house. The average buyer today is paying 97.8% of that sticker price. They're getting that house for about $293,000. I share this with you because I would rather turn you down now than disappoint you later if you think we can make an offer on a hot new property $20,000 below ask. That was a really powerful statement, so I'm going to say it again. I'd rather turn you down now than disappoint you later if you think we can make an offer 15 to 20% below asking price on a hot new property. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, it is my job to help you find the best deal out there. And I'm not saying there aren't deals out there to be had. I'm talking about hot new properties to the market. How does that sound? Give them a chance to answer. What I've done, guys, is I have set a very important expectation with my buyers. I am not here to make offers that are insulting to other people. I am here to be a professional, to study the market and advise you on a good price. 9 times out of 10, my clients take my advice, okay? So if you have problems with people that want to do a lot of lowball offers, set that expectation up front, okay? Yes, we do present whatever offer they ask of us. It is up to you on how assertive you want to be with this expectation. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I have some great news to share with you about interest rates if you haven't already heard. I want you to take a look down at the table and see that the interest rates we're seeing today have been at 3.38%, sometimes lower, a good bit lower. We haven't seen that in 30, 40 years. On the right-hand side, this is what a sample monthly mortgage payment would look like on a $200,000 house, and let's say you put 5% down. At a 3.38% interest rate, you're only going to pay $1,233 a month. Let's say interest rates creep back up to 5.38%. That exact same house is going to cost you $1,457 a month. When I tell you now's a great time to buy, I want to show you the numbers that back that statement up. Again, guys, I'm earning their trust here by sharing factual numbers. So next, I want to talk about financial pre-approval. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, when you become financially pre-approved with a mortgage lender, it essentially turns you into a cash buyer. You may not have the cash in your own pocket, but the bank is pre-approving you to receive that cash at closing. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I need to let you know now, I can only show homes to pre-approved buyers. Please trust that this is in your best interest. That's it, guys. That's all I'll say. That really is it. You're like, what? I was waiting for some magic fairy dust of an answer. Nope. I just set an expectation and I'm confident about it. I need to let you know now that I can only show homes to pre-approved buyers. Okay, Jordan, but it's not always that easy. Sometimes they give us an objection. Great. I'm going to give you a couple objection handlers. Well, I'll get pre-approved, if I see a house that I liked. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you told me at the beginning of this consultation that you rate yourself an 8 out of 10 in terms of motivation. That being said, you guys need to make a move. If we find the perfect house tomorrow and it's in a competitive price point, that home may not be on the market 24 hours later, and it could take that much time for you to get pre-approved. Does it make sense as to why I don't want you to miss out on that house by not having a pre-approval? Guys, you'll make people upset if you tell them why you want them to get pre-approved, how it benefits you. They don't care how it benefits you or wastes your time if they're not pre-approved, but they do care about how it affects them. I would hate to see you lose out on your dream home, Mrs. Jones, just because it took too long to get pre-approved. Another objection handler. The majority of listing agents out there are not going to take our offer seriously if we don't have a financial pre-approval. I can't say I blame them. Let's put ourselves in the seller's shoes. A lot of people are still really scared about COVID right now, and they were terrified enough to open up the house for 20 people to come through. Do you think they want people trolloping through their home that may not even be able to afford to buy it? I trust that you wouldn't like that either. So let's do the right thing and get pre-approved. I've got a list of my top lenders that I'd be happy to share with you. There's another reason why going through a buyer consultation the same way is a good idea, guys. You're already going to know the objections that could come up. I have yet to get surprised by anyone's objections in my buyer consult. I know, okay, somebody might give me flack about getting pre-approved. Okay, somebody might give me flack about not writing lowball offers. These are things that I'm going to tackle and be prepared for up front. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, now we're going to talk about the really fun part, shopping for your home. I want to start by saying this. Unless you have an unlimited budget, and I mean like you won the Mega Millions, okay? The big billboard you see when you're coming over the high rise, okay? Unless you won that, the perfect home does not exist. Even if you won the Mega Millions and you built your dream home, I guarantee you after you lived in it for a couple of months, you'd wish that you had done a couple of things differently. So our job together is to find the home that meets the most of your needs that also fits your budget. You see, most buyers that I work with have 3 things they have to contend with: price, location, and amenities. I want to find out where can we wiggle a little bit. Most people can't wiggle their price range. They've got a certain price range in mind for financial reasons. But maybe we can wiggle your location a little or a lot. I know you really like Broadmoor, but have you also considered Carrollton or the Black Pearl or Uptown? Or the amenities. Perhaps you really, really want an open kitchen, but we find a house that checks all the other boxes, but the kitchen's kind of small. What if we could easily remove one of those walls to open up that kitchen? That's what I'm talking about. Our job together is to find out where we can wiggle a little bit. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, my average buyer looks at 5 homes in person before finding the right one. Don't be surprised if I take you to your first home and you fall in love with it and you're ready to write an offer. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, today I would rather ask you 50 questions about your next home and show you 5 homes. rather than ask you 5 questions and show you 50 homes. Your time is too valuable for that. If you're good at telling me what you want today and I'm good at listening, I'm going to take you right to it. So guys, I have set some really important expectations on this one slide or page or however you're going to present it. I told them a perfect home doesn't exist, so no, I'm not going to show you 47 of them until you think you found it, okay? We're going to have to wiggle a little bit. Hey, occasionally you get that buyer that's like just super excited and they do feel like the house is perfect, okay? But a lot of times there's something they don't like about it. The third thing, I told them how many homes that we're going to look at before finding the right one. Can I truly control how many homes they want to look at? No. They're the pilot. I'm the co-pilot. I've got a steering wheel too, or I guess a co-pilot doesn't have a steering wheel. They have a little stick thingy, whatever. I got one of those too. So what I mean by that is, if they tell me what they want in their next house, and then they send me a list of 10 homes the next day, and 8 of those homes are nothing like they told me what they wanted, it's my job to eloquently tell them, we should really only be looking at 2 of these houses, because I really listened and took to heart yesterday what you said you wanted, and these 8 homes don't meet that criteria, okay? By the way, the average number of homes I show a buyer over the past 4 years has been 4.75 homes, okay? So trust me, this process works. And yes, I track my numbers because I'm nerdy like that. All right, so Mr. and Mrs. Jones, there's a couple of ways you can view homes. Of course, I'm going to set you up on a property search and you're going to tell me what your favorites are, but you also might visit an open house. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you guys a couple of my business cards, which I literally reach out of my briefcase or portfolio and I give them a stack of my business cards. And I want you to think of these as open house guest passes. When you go to the open house, hand my business card to the agent that's hosting and let them know that you're already working with another agent, so that if you have any questions, they'll know that I'll contact them directly. Also, you might be driving around one day and see a for sale by owner sign in someone's front yard. Do me a favor, snap a picture of the sign and let me call that for sale by owner on your behalf. I know the right questions to ask the for sale by owner to find out their motivation to sell, any deficiencies that may be wrong with the property, and why they chose the price that they chose. How does that sound? Some of you are probably going, this chick is crazy. She sends her buyers to open houses and tells them that they can look at FSBOs. You're darn tootin' I do. My job and your job is not to be Vanna White and run around and show houses all day. For the most part, no offense, that doesn't take a lot of talent. Our talent comes in, as you know, once they're under contract, okay? Or getting them under contract. Also, I want to put the for sale by owner elephant out in the room right up front, because I don't want them to feel like they have to sneak around my back to go talk to a FSBO. Guys, you can work with a FSBO just as successfully as you can work with a listing agent, okay? Yeah, sometimes it's harder, but I've had some successful transactions where it was no different, okay? All right, Mr. Jones, I want to talk to you next about the purchase agreement. I've brought a blank copy for you right here, and I am happy to review this entire document with you right now so that you're comfortable and confident with the language before we write an offer. Or Mrs. Jones, you guys can take this home and read it together over supper, whichever you prefer. Once we write an offer on this form, or I should say type an offer on this form, we can do it all virtually. I'm going to present it to the listing agent, and the seller can accept, reject, or counter our offer. But do me a favor, make sure you review this and call me with any questions. Yes, I hand them a purchase agreement right then and there, guys. They can find it on Google. It's like on LREC's website, okay? If you want, you can watermark sample across the top of it. I've sat right there, and for those people that are, you know, your engineers, your lawyers, your people that are very detail-oriented, they may want to go over it with you then and there. I'd rather do that and save time when it's time to write an offer than sit there and calm their fears over what exactly they're signing, okay? So let's pretend, Mr. Jones, that we presented the offer to the seller. They countered back to us, but in the end we agreed. We are officially under contract. What next? Oh my gosh, here's where the process really gets interesting. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, the first time you're going to need money in this entire process is for your good faith deposit. This is a check that I want you to write when we write the offer, because I want you to know if our offer is accepted and we're under contract, this check is going to be cashed and it's going to be held in an escrow or safekeeping account, either by the title company or the listing agent's brokerage. Write this down, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. The deposit money is typically 1% of the offer price. Why do I tell them about deposit money, guys? If you're working with somebody in a tight budget, every penny counts. In the very beginning, one of my first buyers, they literally didn't know what closing costs were, and I guess I didn't feel like I had to explain that. I thought their lender would explain it to them, and it killed the deal. They didn't have money for closing costs. We found out, of course, like 2 weeks into it. That's when I stuck that into my presentation right away, okay? So deposit money is the first amount of money you're going to need to have handy. Next, we're going to want to perform a home inspection. I highly encourage you to employ the services of a licensed home inspector. They're basically a house doctor. It is their job to go in and do a general checkup of the home and tell us what we couldn't already see with our naked eye. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we made an offer knowing what kind of condition the home was in. For instance, we knew the carpets were dirty. The seller disclosed that the roof was old and had leaks in it. The inspector is here to tell us what we didn't know. Those are the types of items we want to have the chance to negotiate on. The home inspection is really to focus on major items only, such as plumbing, electrical, structural issues, and the cost is typically $350 to $500 for a general home inspection. Should you choose to have additional inspections, well, the price can go up, but be prepared to have a couple $100 in safekeeping for that home inspection. Sound good? All right, so obvious reasons I think why we should talk about the deposit money and home inspection, and I trust that you agree. So let's move on. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, or Jones, Buyer, whoever, after the inspection happens, we will have a chance to ask the seller to remedy some issues for us. Now, I already mentioned the inspection is for major items only. Submitting an inspection response that talks about cracked tiles on the floor and the light bulb in the refrigerator being burnt out, we're not very likely to come to an agreement with the more major items we're concerned about if we flood the page with a bunch of minor stuff too. Let's focus on the big things that are deal breakers to you. How does that sound? That is such an important expectation, guys. How many of you listing agents or buyer agents, you literally, the buyer wants you to present the entire inspection report as their inspection response? Yes, we share the inspection report. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like literally they wanted everything fixed. Well, you gotta set that expectation up front. I mean, I'm not saying it could never happen, but let's be honest, it probably is not gonna happen. Focus on the major items first. Again, there's only so much you can control, but at least set that expectation up front in your consultation. All right, after we've agreed upon an inspection response, the next step that happens if you're getting a mortgage is an appraisal needs to occur. You see, the bank's not going to lend us more money than they feel the home is worth. So they're going to send out an independent third party to look at the same data I looked at when I helped you come up with an offer price. And they're going to determine if the house is worth what we said it is, or it's not. If it appraises for higher, fantastic. If it appraises for lower, we'll talk about that if you have further questions. But most of the time, I can read the market well enough for us to not run into that issue. That is a cost that's paid by the buyer. It's typically between $400 and $500. And remember, the best part about an appraisal is it's reassurance that you're not overpaying for a home. When do you pay? After inspections. I'm going to make sure your lender does not order that appraisal until after inspections. Just in case you decide you no longer want to purchase it, I don't want you to spend that $500 up front. Sound good? Do you hear me saying, how does that sound? Sound good? Okay. You want to get their buy-in. That's what makes it a consultation, okay? And I know I'm using an imaginary buyer right now, but there's typically a lot of dialogue in these buyer consultations, okay? Next, I want to talk to you about what the title company is going to do for you, because you do need to have a title company involved. Among other things, they're mainly going to perform a title search and make sure that the seller actually has the right to sell you the property. That may sound kind of funny, but in real estate, this happens every day, okay? They're also going to host the closing, record the mortgage note, disperse funds to all the parties that need to be paid. The title company is very important, and just know that their job is to protect you. Now, we talked about the importance of pre-approval, but I must stress that pre-approval is not the same as final loan approval. So once you're pre-approved, please be sure to check with your lender before making any large purchases, especially on credit, any large deposits, or large withdrawals. I need you both to promise me right now that you will do your best to keep your financial status normal during this time that we're searching for a home. Can you make that promise to me? Did we not just set a super important expectation, guys? How many of you have had a deal get killed because they went out and bought a bunch of furniture on credit, or they went and applied for a car loan? Okay, we know things happen sometimes that may kill a deal. It's okay. Somebody may have really needed to use money for something big. But don't have a deal killed because you didn't tell them what to expect. Okay, now you might be thinking that's the lender's job. Well, I don't like to rely on anybody. I like to inform people up front the best that I can. So I make sure somebody told them. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, a couple days before closing, or if we're really lucky, maybe a week, the lender's going to let us know we have final loan approval. And what that means is we have full loan commitment and a reason to celebrate. Woohoo! This slide, guys, is what I want to call your value proposition slide. Yes, I have a team. No, it does not matter if you don't have a team. This is just part of my value proposition. But this slide, or this part of your consultation, should be about why you're special. What makes working with you different from working with her, different from working with me? So my value proposition goes like this. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, at the Sibley Group, you are always working with a specialist. And the benefit to you is the knowledge, availability, and communication from my entire team and our network of trusted vendors. Please trust that you will never have to call my office and someone doesn't pick up the phone. We will always get back to you. Last but not least, we're going to talk about two really important forms and then some really exciting stuff. The first form I want to present you is called the Customer Information Form. The Louisiana Real Estate Commission requires it at first face-to-face interaction with a client. It does not bind you to working with me. It simply states that I've done my job to explain to you what my duties are as a realtor. Please review this and sign. Half the time they don't even read it, but encourage them to read it and sign it, okay? The second form here is my team's exclusive agency agreement. This form you can think of as a dating contract. It commits me to you and you to me. And it asks you to please do some very important things like always tell me the truth, abide by certain timelines that are set forth in our contract. It also asks you to have fun and to be honest with me if I'm ever not meeting your expectations, okay? And it also states that you are not responsible for paying my commission, that is taken care of by the seller. There is a line down here at the bottom that's highlighted in yellow that I want to point out. It says, my services are offered at no cost to you, with the exception of if we get into an agreement with a for sale by owner that does not agree to pay my commission is X%. I'm laying everything out there on the table, guys, so there's no surprises with my buyer. Ask that to them to sign. I will tell you, 8 out of 10 clients, they sign it before I've even gotten the explanation out of my mouth. This is the end of you building their trust all through this consultation. It's easier than you think to get somebody to commit to working with you. Next, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we're going to talk about your home search needs and wants. This is the really exciting part, and we're going to do this together. Are you ready? Yay, we're so excited. Okay. All right, so that was a lot of content, guys, and I expect a lot of questions and a lot of ahas. So Julie, we're going to pause right here. We've still only gone through the first 2 steps of the buyer service cycle model. Remember, guys, we're supposed to spend the bulk of our time here, so don't worry. We're going to get through the rest quickly. But please type in some ahas and questions.
Hi, Jordan. Rebecca would like to know if you'll be providing the PowerPoint. She says it helps to know how to take notes or listen better, not easy to do both.
Gotcha. I'll talk with Julie about that. I'm more than happy to provide the buyer service cycle part of the PowerPoint, but sharing our actual Teams consultation, I'll need to chat with Julie about that a little bit later. But I will, how about this? I promise to at least put what you should cover in the buyer consultation, okay? Hopefully that's fair.
Also, I would like to remind everybody that we are recording this and we'll have this up on the website. So if there was something that you wanted to go back to, you can. Brooke would like to know, what do you say to someone who calls and says they will be ready to buy in about 1 year?
Great question, Brooke. As I mentioned, fortune is in the follow-up. Mr. and Mrs. or Mr. Buyer, thank you so much for letting me know that you'll be purchasing in about a year. I like to do my due diligence and make sure that you remember my name. And when the time comes and you have some real estate questions, I stay in touch. Would you be offended if I followed up with you every 3 months until then? It's really important. I ask, would you be offended if? Most people are not going to say, yes, it would offend me if you called me. There's a reason why I say it that way. But get their permission to follow up. And then second, guys, actually follow up. Good question, Brooke.
David wants to share one of his ahas is tie downs are crucial.
Yes. So if you guys don't know some of the science behind language of sales, it's saying things like, how does that sound? Right? Okay. What are your thoughts on that? It's basically tying down the statement that you just made.
Chris wants to know, if a buyer pays your commission, do you add it into the price of the home?
No. So of course we can't talk specifics on commission in this class. Talk to your broker about a document we have called the, I think it's called the one client listing agreement or something like that. I forget the actual title, but it's basically an addendum to the contract that states who's going to be responsible for paying your commission and how much it is. I'll be very transparent. I've never had to have a buyer pay my commission, so I can't really say how to handle that, but talk with your broker on it and make sure you get that document signed before you write the offer, okay?
Also, Chris, the recording will be on the Nomar website. Next question, when working with a for sale by owner, how do you work the cost of the commission to the buyer, meaning how do you get them to pay? I guess that's the same question, possibly.
Yeah, same question. I will tell you this. I do know of people in my office that they told the buyer up front, my commission is X. We can talk to your lender about how we could get creative with that, or it can just be paid for, separately from the loan. So again, talk to your broker, talk to the lender.
This one is from Carolyn. I think you gave great advice about open houses. Give your client your business card to give to agent at open house. Also, for sale by owner, take picture and send to me. I can call as your agent. Great advice.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. I'm so glad you had that aha. Definitely give them your business card. I've had some agents say, take a picture of my business card so you don't lose it. You know, there's lots of great ways to make sure they have your business card and to also talk about for sale by owners.
We have a question from Renee. Is agency disclosures presented prior to writing the contract?
Yes, that's the customer information form / agency disclosure. That is signed when someone works with me, that is signed at the buyer consultation.
And we have one more comment. Jordan, this entire presentation is an aha. Feels more like a conversation with the buyer, which is easier.
So glad to hear that. Yay. Y'all, this is my favorite part about working with buyers. This is where you really get to know them. You get to earn their trust. I mean, how cool is it that somebody wants us to be there with them along this journey to purchase a home? That's so awesome. And this buyer consult just really, it's like your first date. Thank you so much, Julie. I'm going to forge ahead. There will be plenty of more time for questions and ahas, okay? All right, guys. So let's talk about step 3, actually finding them a home. So at the buyer consult, I pull up on the big screen in our conference room, or you can do this on your laptop, whatever. I pull up the MLS search and I create it while they're sitting there. This is such a crucial conversation. All right. So what I do is I have a sheet. It's got 5 boxes on the left and 5 boxes on the right. At the top left, it says home must-haves. On the right side, it says home wants. And the conversation goes like this. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we're about to set up your home search together. Before we do that, I want to talk to you both separately. Yes, we're both sitting in here, but I want you to pretend like this is the newlywed game and there's a wall right here. You can't hear each other, okay? Mrs. Jones, I'm going to talk to you first. Please tell me 3 things your home must have, or you're not even going to look at it. Now, I told you I have 5 boxes. That depends on their price point. Depending on where they're looking, if they've got a pretty hefty budget, I'll ask them 5 must-haves. If not, I'll stick with 3. So she's going to say a large backyard, an open floor plan, and a big kitchen. Next, I'm going to say, Mrs. Jones, tell me, what does a big backyard mean to you? Well, we have 2 really big dogs, so I need some space for them to be able to run around. Let's pretend they had young children. We also have young children, and my husband likes to build things. You know, I want him to have room to build him a tree house or a swing set. I know y'all are like, I bet they ain't buying in Orleans Parish. Maybe they're looking on the North Shore or whatever, I don't know. But this is the important thing. You have to dig 2 to 3 layers deep on anything they tell you. This is how you go from showing them 50 houses to 5 houses. So Mrs. Jones, you want a big yard so your dogs have space to run around and you've got an area to build a swing set. Let me ask you this. If I found you a home close to City Park where you have access to a dog park and you have access to tons of playground equipment, would that suffice? Would you still need a big backyard? Well, actually, no. Then we could have a pretty small backyard. I would actually prefer a dog park. Aha. That opened up their search big time. Now, again, I gave you a specific example, but still you need to dig 3 layers deep because you may have been completely overlooking an area you would have otherwise, not looked in. Ms. Jones, you also said you wanted an open floor plan. Tell me what an open floor plan means to you. Well, an open floor plan to me is where the master is on one side and the rest of the bedrooms are on the other. I see. What you're looking for is a split floor plan. That's actually the term we use in real estate. Oh, okay, yeah, split floor plan. That's what I want. Guys, does she need a big, modern, big box, wide open floor plan? No. I dug a layer deep and found out she actually wants a split floor plan. Okay. Mrs. Jones, tell me what's important to you about a split floor plan. I've asked the same question, guys. I say, tell me what's important to you. You think it's redundant. The buyer doesn't, I promise. Well, it's important to me because, you know, with younger kids, they make a lot of noise, you know, and my husband has trouble sleeping. So I just want to make sure the master's pretty far away from the other bedrooms. Ah, I understand now, Mrs. Jones. Tell me, would a two-story home work where the master bedroom is downstairs and the rest of the bedrooms are upstairs? No, you know, we really don't like two-story homes, Jordan. Aha. I shouldn't be showing them two-story homes. That's what digging layers deep means. And for the last thing, guys, I'll share this one. She said she wants a big kitchen. I think that's what I said she said. We'll go with that. Mrs. Jones, tell me why a big kitchen is important to you. Well, you know, I don't want one of those kitchens where I'm stuck kind of in a hallway and I can't like really interact with everybody in the other room. So Mrs. Jones, is the size of your kitchen important, or is the flow from the kitchen to the living area more important? Yeah, I don't really mind if the kitchen's not huge. I just want to be able to see everybody. Guys, I'm teaching you right now why that term buyers are liars is a misunderstanding. I told you, you just have to get better at asking more questions. Because look, if we would have started out with what she said, I need a big backyard, an open floor plan, and a big kitchen, you'd have showed this lady 25 homes. You really didn't know exactly what she wanted. All right, so we do that. Then we go to Mr. Jones. I'm not going to play Mr. Jones. Okay. Then the second set of that sheet, I told you you had must-haves and you have wants. You start with the other party first. Mr. Jones, please tell me 3 things that you would like to have in your next home, meaning it's not a deal breaker, but you'd really like to have it. Go through the same process. Guys, this conversation can take 10 minutes. It can take 30 minutes. But you are doing so much good, valuable research by having this conversation now. You'd have been super ticked off and disappointed if you showed them 5 homes with huge backyards, huge kitchens, and a wide open floor plan, and they still didn't like any of them. But when you do this, now we're really cooking. Now we know exactly what the Joneses want. So after I do that, I am going to put that stuff into Matrix. No, I didn't ask them about price yet. We'd get to that, okay? Or some of them might give you that as a must-have. It has to be in this price range. Before I show you what I do with Matrix, okay, and it's just one quick slide, I need to say this now. You need to set your expectations for when you are available to show property. We are not in this business to run ourselves ragged and be available 24/7. Do dentists work from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m., texting their patients, doing teeth cleanings? No. Do attorneys? No, most of them don't. I mean, pretty much any industry has boundaries. But we've convinced ourselves that we're not working hard enough if we're not working 7 days a week, 40 hours a week. Y'all, that's cray. You got to have a life, okay? That's where burnout happens. That's where resentment happens. So this is what I say to my clients. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I'm really looking forward to looking at houses with you guys. What I do need to let you know is I'm also a mom and a wife, just like you are, Mrs. Jones, and time with my 6-year-old and time with my husband is really important to me. When at all possible, I will show you homes between 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. If we must look at homes on the weekend, please let me know. However, I can take you around to see 2 or 3 homes on your quick lunch break, okay? I know some of you are going, oh, I could never say that to a buyer. Is that you can't say it, or you're too afraid to say it? Make it relatable. Nobody's gonna get mad at me for saying I'm a wife and I'm a mom. Everybody's got things they've got to deal with. So set those expectations up front. And if they start texting you at 10 p.m., don't text back. If you text them back, you're setting the expectation that that's okay. All right? So if I can do anything today, I want to empower you that you don't have to work yourself to death to have a successful business. All right, so we did our must-haves and wants. When I set up the search right in front of them in the MLS, I start checking my boxes and I start with the broadest parameters first. Price, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage if they mention that's important to them, active, open predication, whatnot. Every time I tick a box or type something in, I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, please look at the number here at the bottom. I've got it circled. This is the number of homes that meet your criteria. Guys, if you've got people that have champagne taste on a beer budget and they watch that number shrink down to 3, 2, or nothing, you'll be surprised at how quickly their must-haves will change. Now, if it shrinks down to only 1, 2, or no listings, you can say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you can now see that there are currently no homes on the market that meet your must-haves. We have 2 options. We're going to wiggle a little bit on our price, location, and or amenities, or we're just going to have to wait until that right home does come along. What would you prefer? Put it in their hands. But it's very important to set this up in front of them. Or if you already set them up on a home search, guys, it's okay. Pull it back up when you do meet with them and tweak it. All right, step 4, offer and negotiations. I've got to practice what I preach with this sometimes. There have been times when I've done not the best job and I've texted or emailed an agent without an offer. But guys, nothing beats the power of a telephone call. And I know you'll say, well, some people don't pick up their phones. I know, but don't be one of those people. Pick up your phone, okay? So when you're about to present an offer, call the listing agent when possible, okay? No email or text. This is a huge financial decision for someone that you spent a long time gaining their trust. This offer deserves more than a text. Again, guilty as charged. I've been busy, tried to pump out an offer, texted it to somebody. We're all guilty. Just want to encourage you to pick up that phone when you can. Let them know what time to expect the offer. Hey, Susan, I was just calling to let you know my clients love the house on 123 Main Street, and I'm working on an offer right now. I will have it to you by 8 p.m. tonight. That way, if there's any other offers on the table or a deadline you didn't know about, you find out right then and there from Susan. Lead with positive energy. Make the other agent excited to work with you. I always finish my phone call with, Susan, thanks so much. I look forward to you receiving my offer, and I really hope we get the chance to do business together. I mean that. I look forward to working with her. 9 times out of 10, we haven't even met the other person that's the listing agent, unless you met them at an open house or you did business with them before. So lead with positive energy. A lot of us are overworked or feel underpaid. It's nice to have some positivity coming from the other end of the phone. All right. So we made it all the way through to the 4th step in the service cycle. I've taught you how to connect with buyers in step 1 and 2, convert them into a signed agency agreement in step 2, and also help them find a house and make an offer. Please share any ahas or questions that you have with Julie. She will let me know. I am super thirsty today.
This question is from Carolyn. One client listing, I did advertise the home on my own. Potential buyer called. I gave all information. Other agent called representing the potential buyer. Do I need to pay other agent a commission?
Again, Carolyn, I don't want to offer my opinion on that important matter. I would take that to your broker. Okay.
This is from Barbara. I totally agree with you. We should be calling and not texting.
Yes. Again, guilty as charged. If you've been in a deal with me and you're like, but you texted me that one time, hey, it happens. But guys, sometimes I'll get people that are like, the other agent just won't pick up the phone. I've I've sent a text before that said, I'll say Kathy, sorry to the Kathys out there. Kathy, this is a very important decision for my clients, and I really don't like handling such a big decision via text. Can you please call me at your earliest convenience? I would really appreciate it. Okay, anybody else have questions or funky situations you got into or objections that you got from a client or even another agent that you want to know how to handle? All right, we will keep trucking along, and you can always type those in if you think of something. All right, so next, step 5, contract to close. This is really where your magical powers come into play, okay? Guys, we need to create a dummy-proof system for contract to close, okay? With every transaction, there's certain stuff we gotta do. So you need to have a checklist, and I don't care if it's in a spiral down notebook or if you pay $1,000 a month for a really great system that helps you do it, or you have a spreadsheet. I actually have an expensive system and a spreadsheet because I'm so anal about forgetting something. And I'm going to share that with you in just a second, actually. But you want to check things off as you go along. You know, write in or type in your important dates so you make sure you don't miss them. Some people like to put their important deadlines on their Google Calendar or Apple Calendar. Make sure you do that. The quickest way to lose a client's trust is to forget something and have to go put out a fire. I want to encourage you to be Smokey the Bear and prevent forest fires, okay? Instead of being a firefighter who puts out fires, okay? I don't know, did I just draw across the screen? I don't know what that is, but whatever. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's like a big blue scribble across the screen. So contract to close process, very, very important. I'll show you what I use in just a second. You want to reference the buyer consultation whenever you meet resistance from your client. Okay, so we talked about the expectations we should set when we talk about the inspection. Let's say they're like, oh my God, there's 50 maintenance items on this inspection report. They need to fix all 50 of these. Mrs. Buyer, I appreciate what you're saying, and I can tell that you have some concerns. What I want to reassure you is every home has maintenance issues. I want you to think of a home as a human body. It's a living, breathing, changing thing. If you go to the doctor and get a checkup, gosh, I mean, all your levels from your blood work are going to be all over the place. But we just want to make sure the big things like our cholesterol and our blood sugar are doing pretty good, okay? We need to focus on the cholesterol and the blood sugar levels of this home, okay? If that doesn't work, you can say, tell me what has you most concerned on this inspection report. I want to do what I can to help calm your fears. Okay, dig deeper. Guys, this is so important. Please write this down. An objection is simply a question that you didn't answer. An objection is a question that you didn't answer. Why do I need to get pre-approved? Well, if you didn't explain the importance of pre-approval and you just told them to go get pre-approved, no, they're not going to want to get pre-approved. Okay? Yes, again, you're going to have those clients who are a pain in the patoots no matter what you do. But those 80% of clients that follow your models and processes, they're going to understand if you just calm their fears, ask them how you can explain something differently. Let your clients know when they're going to hear from you next. I want you to pretend that your client has a blindfold on, okay? And you're behind them, guiding them by the shoulders. We actually did this exercise in a class I took. Okay, so you're blindfolded, somebody's behind you guiding you, and they're going, okay, walk left, there's a chair right there. Okay, turn to the right a little bit. You're gonna trip over something, take a big step, okay? If you're wearing the blindfold, you feel really safe when somebody is giving you instruction. What if they blindfolded you and just started pushing you forwards? Would you feel comfortable then? Probably not. Unless your client is a repeat buyer, like an investor or whatever, they're blindfolded, guys. You've got to tell them what to expect next. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, now that we've made it through inspections, I'm going to tell your lender to order the appraisal. I will check back in with you at the end of this week because there's not really a whole lot that I need from you at this point. But if you have any questions in between, feel free to give me a call. Okay? Mr. Jones, the appraisal came back just fine. Over this next week, there's not much that I need from you. I may send you a couple of emails, but if you don't hear from me, don't panic. It means everything's going okay. Reach out, let the blindfolded client know where to go next. Never, never end a call with your client, if you want to do a good job, without asking, Mr. Jones, is there anything that I can do to improve your experience right now? Guys, if you are afraid to ask them that question, you probably already know you're not doing a good job. Not intentionally, okay? Maybe a few accidents happened you didn't intend, but wouldn't you rather bring it up and face it with your client than just have it be awkward the rest of the time? Most of the time they're going to say, no, everything's been great. I really appreciate you, Jordan. Or they might be like, you know what? No, there's nothing you can do to improve, but I did think of another question. So write that down. Is there anything I can do to improve your experience? That's how you earn clients and referrals for life. You're always checking in. All right. So this is a snapshot of a spreadsheet that I have, okay? It is nothing fancy. I have a list of stuff on the left, and there's about like 35 other lines that I couldn't fit on the screen, but it's stuff I want to remind myself. And you might be looking at this if you can see it, and you're like, dude, that's common sense. Well, I know it's common sense, but if I'm working with 6 buyers at one time, I might forget something, and I don't want to do that. So I write it down. When I'm showing a property, did I review the former listing photos, if available, to see if any major renovations were made? Did I check the flood maps to see if the house moved from a low to a high risk zone or a high risk to a low risk zone? Did I actually schedule the appointment through showing time? Oh my gosh, who's actually done that before? Me. You show up at the house and go, oh, yep, I don't even think I made that appointment. That happened to me one time last year. Confirm with the office or the agent that no offers have already been submitted or accepted. Y'all, as a full-time buyer agent, this is the worst. If you're one of those naughty listing agents that forgets to put your property under contract after 72 hours, don't do that. It's not nice, okay? Call and make sure that it's still available. Yes, that takes a lot of time out of my day to call and make sure that a property that shows is active is actually still active. But that one time in my first year of real estate when I wrote an offer for a house that was already under contract, oh, that stunk. Okay, take the extra time to do that. Then I have things under offer procedure, everything from ensure the appraisal's been ordered, inform the client when the loan moves from RD to VA, if applicable, was a termite inspection completed, anything I can think of. I told you, make your system dummy proof. Also, I have a team, okay? If I'm out of town or on vacation, I want one of my team members to be able to see exactly what's happening with every transaction I'm dealing with. If God forbid, you know, I fall into a coma and they've got to take over my, my transaction, okay? I like to have all my buyers' names across the top. I like to type in the information so I can look across at one time and see when everybody's inspection response is due, the date the appraisal was ordered. That's what allows me to go to sleep at night and not worry about if I forgot stuff. Okay, so again, whether you make this in a notebook, whether you have a fancy system that handles it for you, there's no right or wrong, but have a system. All right. Step 6, your post-close systems. Has anybody ever heard the term orphan client? Okay, I know you're not in a class, you can't tell me if you have or haven't, but I bet some of you have. This is what an orphan client is. You get them to the closing table and you never talk to them again. Yes, occasionally you have that client that you really don't want to talk to ever again, but most of them, why would you go through that much effort and emotion and hard work and not follow up with them? The National Association of Realtors 2018 report, sorry, I need to update that, but it's pretty much the same. It stated that 74% of buyers would use their agent again. Dude, these statistics I've told y'all about are amazing. They set us up for success, but I can't tell you how many realtors out there just leave their clients as orphans. Have you ever thought about financially, what is one client worth? Of course, their friendship and business. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about financially, what's one client worth? Okay, let's say your commission is $8,000 on a closing, okay? If you do your job, you should be getting one referral from that client every year, okay? There's stats based on that. It actually might be more than one. So you had the 8,000 from this guy, he referred you to this guy who gave you 8,000, this guy refers you to another guy, and then year over year over year over year. One client is worth an infinite amount of money. Infinite. There's no need to orphan a client unless you really don't ever want to talk to them again, okay? So how do you ensure that you get that repeat business and referrals? Well, you have to touch your past clients 6 to 12 times per year. Don't physically touch them, that's weird. What I mean by touch them is every client I've ever worked with gets a phone call from me 4 times a year, along with some automated emails. And I try not to be spammy. I try to come up with really good content, or we have client events or just little client appreciation things. They don't have to be expensive. But you have to touch your past clients 6 to 12 times a year. It's not their job to remember you, okay? It's your job to remember them. And if you're thinking, Jordan, what do you say to them when you call them 4 times a year? Well, the first time I call them after I sell, 3 months later, I'm asking them how they like the house. Have they come up with any questions or things that I can help them with? Take notes every time you talk to somebody. Type them up, write them up, put them on a post-it on your forehead, whatever. When you call them the next time, 3 months later, reference those notes. When in doubt, ask them about form. How's their family doing? How's work? Have they been to any new fun restaurants lately or gone on any great vacations? You're not really going to ask them about their motivation, but And then don't hang up the phone without saying, I wouldn't be doing my job, Mr. Jones, if I didn't ask you if you knew of anybody from work or school or church who's looking for a great realtor. Do you happen to know of anyone? Well, if you happen to think of someone, please do me a favor and give me a call with their information. I loved working with you and Mrs. Jones, and I bet you know a lot of wonderful people, and I would love to earn your referrals. Don't be afraid to ask for referrals, okay? That's the next part. Be purposeful about asking for an online review or a referral. If you are afraid to follow up with your past clients, look inward and see why. Why are you afraid? Did you do a bad job? Did something go wrong? Did you feel like you just didn't mesh very well? But when in doubt, make the call anyway. And I wanted to leave you with some affordable client appreciation ideas. Not everybody's got a mega budget, okay? Some fun things we've done for our past clients is we hired a photographer to do fall portraits in the park where families would come out and get a 15-minute mini photo session in City Park, and we paid for it. It was a win-win for the photographer and also for us, and that's just something our clients look forward to every year. You'll hear people doing like Thanksgiving pie giveaways or like Christmas cookie giveaways, or maybe you just send them something cute in the mail, like a little bottle of hand sanitizer with your logo on it and a postcard. Little touches, they go a long way. So if you don't have a lot of money in your budget, that's okay. You can still touch your clients with fun things periodically that don't cost a lot of money. There's a term you can search for on Pinterest. I do love Pinterest. It's called a pop buy, P-O-P-B-Y, a pop buy. Those are fun, inexpensive things you can do to a large amount of people. All right, so we have completed this whole beautiful, colorful wheel, step 1 all the way through step 6. I want to finish by getting some more questions, a few more ahas, and more than anything, I want to thank you for your time and your participation.